responsibility of Woolworths. As everyone knows, it's CSR. So the next things, I bet everyone knows Woolworths in Australia and has been shopping there every day for daily groceries. But did everyone know they are actually a multinational company? So they had a base in Australia, New Zealand, and India. And also, it's really it's a company founded in New South Wales in 1924, and their total revenue equals about $46 billion US. To manage this giant company within 13 subsidiaries and like we say, like 205,000 employees, they actually proposed 20 corporate social responsibility. So next slide, I will show here, and I think my team, Brian, also distribute the papers for you guys to read it. So, but overall, they are listing all the goals in 3 categories. So that's what we will talk about today. The first one is people, the second one is planet, and the third one is prosperity. So before that, I would like to give a little bit conception about CSR definition. I think many people will be confused about the relationship between corporate sustainability and corporate responsibility, which involved with economy, like environment and social responsibility. So I found a quite good resource, and also this diagram showed this relationship, the relationship. So this one is like was quoted from Mary 2003, and also from the textbook of Hale 2020. They also encourage the company should pursue their own goals to perform appropriately of their CSR activities. So the journal article also mentioned that there is no specific standard of CSR and it should respond to companies' own or individual performance. So we can't judge someone's doing good or some company are doing bad. I think it's all related to their company's own individual activities. So next, so being aware of those own issue and addressing them in the most practical way to achieve the best CSR. Then next, I will talk about the first of their CSR goals. So we've been looking through their corporate social responsibility goals from 2020, 2025, and 2050. We found some highlight, which is also related to the case study. So the first one is the gender equality. They had targets, which is they are striving to achieve 40%, especially in the executive and senior manager levels. But currently, we found the problem that they only reached 30.60%, and another one is just 37%. However, they are doing quite good. They actually have some action. They are to encourage the female leadership. They are doing something like partnership with Macquarie Graduate School of Management, are offering some courses or studies for their current employees. Then the second one is the no salary wage gap between the male and the female. So for this part, they actually cooperate with another giant, company to support the migrants' work rights. I think most of the international students will be noticed. Some of the students, when they come to here, they don't have, official proper pay. I think that's a big issue of Australia, international students workforce. So next one is embracing their diversity. They've been, so as a retailer, we should say as a retailer business, they are focusing a lot on people. So the first thing, they are training people. Before you enroll the Woolworths employment or recruitment process, they're actually training you with unconscious bias or gender or about like racial or discrimination, this kind of like training course to just make sure that people know what you do, what kind of action is the right way to cooperate with other people. So the next thing is indigenous employees, which has surprised me. They reached 2%. So in 2019, they have already hired like over 1,600 indigenous people. But currently, I was doing another assignment about SDG goals in Australia. I found another complaint. Like Ramsey Pharmacy. They didn't do anything. They are a healthcare, but they didn't do anything about reconciliation of Australia. They don't have any reaction, like action of these kind of plans. So yeah, I think overall they are doing pretty good. So that's my speech today. So next, I think like Brian will continue to the another climate and prosperity.
Okay, so Woolworths' focus on the planet is very innovative. First up, they are trying to reduce food waste in landfill to zero. And in 2021, they already managed 56% of that. And they do this by 3 ways. First, they reduce stock loss. Second, they improve stock waste management. And third, they improve the farmers' rescue program. Woolworths will also source key raw materials sustainably and reduce the use of plastic. So by 2023, 100% of the packaging will be either recyclable, reusable, or compostable, while 60% of the packaging will use recycled materials. Furthermore, Woolworths already managed to reduce CO2 fish leakage by 37%, which is 5,500 tons of CO2 equivalent each year. They do this by replacing existing fish system with hybrid systems. What's more, as electricity is the biggest contributor to emissions, they will try to target 100% renewable energy by 2025. Woolworths invested heavily into low carbon technology and energy efficient technology, which has already delivered even more savings than what they originally invested. As a result, energy used in new stores is 30% less than the old ones, and the new installed solar panels are covering 30% of Woolworths new stores. As climate change is very apparent in recent weather events like the Brisbane flood recently, research shows that to stop the worst impacts of climate change, we have to, and preserve our planet, we have to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. But currently the Earth is already 1.1 degrees Celsius warmer than pre-industrial levels. And as called for the Paris Agreement in 2015, emissions need to be reduced by 45% by 2030 and needs to reach zero by 2050. So Woolworths originally set out a goal of 10% emissions reduction, which is been proven not enough by the Paris Agreement. But fortunately, Woolworths have already readjusted their goal and have already managed to reduce emissions by 27%. And they are on track and even aims to further reduce emissions to 63% by 2030. And all of these goals have been scientifically approved by the SBTi. But it doesn't stop there. Woolworths are trying to go further and try to reach net zero by 2050, giving back more than they use, and contribute to the global net neutrality goal. And to do that, they cannot just stop their carbon footprint. As the as the damage has already been done. They have to try to reverse natural habitat loss by reforestation, cleaning the ocean, and adopting regenerative agriculture and sustainable fishing practices. Woolworths' focus on prosperity is based on 3 categories. For suppliers, they are trying to achieve top suppliers engagement ranking by sharing knowledge with their suppliers on emissions reduction and energy efficiency improvements. For customers, they are encouraging the customer to consume healthy products by developing the healthy eating index and making their food more affordable and while increasing the range of options as well. But the most transparent initiative is investing 1% of their earnings in community partnerships, of which in 2021 they already was $25 million. Surveys revealed that most businesses have improved suppliers' relationship from their CSR initiatives. As sustainability, suppliers that commit to sustainability have demonstrated their long-term vision, which is essential for building lasting relationships. Vice versa, supplier relationship can also increase sustainability performance because the company's image depends on its values throughout the whole supply chain. So by working closely together, suppliers are able to incorporate ethical practices and be more responsible as well. As most suppliers have worked with Woolworths for more than a decade, this allows for the free flow of ideas and information. So over time, it reduces costs and reduces availability problems, delays, or quality issues, which benefits the customer as well. And to improve the supplier relationship, this involves Woolworths giving suppliers certain requirements and then let them have the flexibility to deliver, so to improve trust and collaboration along the way. And it is also critical for Woolworths to choose suppliers that align with the company's values, such as reducing emissions. So, because short-term profit is not worth it over long-term impacts. Research also found that the most serious environmental issues usually come from second-tier suppliers further up the supply chain. So Woolworths should directly approach these companies to work with them and monitor them. But that will require more effort from the company. Next up is Brian to discuss the challenges.
So thank you, Long, for discussing, and Layla for discussing the CSR that are being done in Woolworths. So now I'll be discussing to you the not so good parts of what's happening around it. Okay, and I want to call this the numbers to remember. So most of the things that they shared to you would be the numbers that they, the things that they developed around these things. So these were the benchmarks that set where Woolworths is right now. So from the time that we established equal remuneration for people in Australia, and as it develops through the Fair Work Australia, where women and men should have an equal call in terms of pay. But then again, it's still an issue, but a different discussion. And also for the planet, again, like what Long said, it's based on the Paris Convention, which started way back in 2015, and Australia adopted that in 2016. And then when it comes to prosperity, of course, main issue would always be the food hunger. But this is not just the underpinning agreements and movements that Woolworths trying to put their efforts into. Next slide. And now these are the more, I'd say, more important numbers to remember. 2025, 2030, and 2050. But let's begin with now and what happened in the past. Welcome to 2022. So this year is 2022. But prior to that, Woolworths faced a lot of issues. Probably one of them, you've heard over the news, pay issue. Woolworths had an issue when it comes to underpaying their employees. And this is an ongoing case. if you're gonna check the Fair Work Ombudsman website, you can see there that from 19 or 20 million initially, they're now subject to pay more than 200 million. Because there's unequal payment when it comes to, it's not unequal payment, it's underpayment. And one of the initiatives that they're trying to push is equal pay, fair payment. That's one of the goals they have in terms of sustainability. Another issue is that, like what the other group mentioned in Bangladesh, is the companies trying to get labor from Bangladesh. Woolworths is a big company. One of the companies that under Woolworths Group is Big W. And I'm pretty sure that's a familiar brand. If you go to the city, you go to shopping centers, you'd see Big W. That's part of Woolworths Group Limited. Okay? And Woolworths Limited just released that they're gunning for a 25 million fast fashion production. And fast fashion is an issue that is attached to climate change. Because again, we keep on producing and producing clothing without thinking as to how we can resolve the issue of disposal, recycling, and whatnot. Another issue is that Woolworths trying to prevent carbon emission. We highlighted that in Long's presentation. In the carbon emission, they're aiming for 0%. And if you're going to review that, they're trying to have a positive net emission by the time of 2050. And in saying that, contrary to that, Woolworths actually, well, it's an effort to open a distribution center. Is anyone familiar with a distribution center? So say you go to the port, and everything that's delivered outside of the country is being kept and dispatched from there. So Woolworths has that. They have their warehouse. And the most advanced warehouse, not just probably in Australia, is owned by Woolworths. It's in Dandenong, in Melbourne. So it has a 14-kilometer conveyor belt, automated robots, machines, it's there. That's how they're trying to improve carbon emission. But at the same time, there's one side of it that they're not discussing, which is the transportation. Globally, transportation is the second largest contributor to carbon emission. Because what? They burn fuel. And at this point, Woolworths hasn't discussed anything around it. And they own their own logistics company, which they renamed. Before it was Woolworths. Now I think it's, they call it, forgot the name. But if you Google it, you'll see a different name, but it's still owned by Woolworths. So it's a dispatch logistics company focusing on how they're going to move around Australia and deliver their goods. So there are good and bad sides around it, especially now at 2022. Now let's move to 2025. As you can see there, Woolworths has pushed for a 2025 goal. But prior to that, Woolworths actually established a 2030 goal. Why is that, do you think they're trying to push for a 2025 goal now? Because time has changed. And this is an effort to resolve those damaging issues that they had in the past as well. They're trying to be more aggressive to prove that they're really 100% committed in delivering those 20 goals that's stipulated in that piece of paper that I shared with you. Because again, as we mentioned in this class, brand trust is a big factor in terms of encouraging buyers to support you, especially the business that they're in. Right? And then in that 2025 goal, as you can see, there are small boxes at the very top of each goal. It will tell you the progress of that specific goal they have. Some of them are close to achieving, some of them just newly started. And therefore, it will show you that with that so many goals, 20 goals, it could be difficult for a multinational company to cascade everything. But at the end of the day, any movement towards a goal is still a positive improvement, especially when we're talking about climate change. And now let's go to 2030. And in 2030, pretty much things are based on what we have shown to you. We're on track based on the 2030 goal. But 2030 goal is 7 years from now, 8 years from now. the question is how fast is the world changing? Because this effort is not just done by Woolworths. It should be a global effort. Now let's move to 2050, where we don't know our future. We've seen a lot of changes in 2050. And in this time, it's a matter of question whether we're going to be successful or not. So the thing that we want to leave with you is that is 2050 goals attainable with what we've seen and what we're experiencing nowadays? Should the push toward that direction is good or not? It's for you to decide. It's because you're seeing it right before your very eyes. And before you know, by 2050, you might not be able to see your next birthday. Because you might not be living, existing, Woolworths might not be able to deliver, who knows? But the most important thing is that if we act today, which Woolworths is trying to show and to prove to us that there's something that can be done, we can all celebrate another happy birthday. Thank you. And I will proceed with the questions. So these are the